Hello and welcome. You're watching Business Today Television. I'm Sakshi Batra and this is Market Today, a show where we'll help you understand everything from the trading setup to the market strategies that you need to know about this fresh and new week as well. Now, we'll start off with a recap of what happened last week and, of course, focus on all the triggers that the markets will be reacting to this week as well. Now, amidst the strong stock market sell-off that we'd been witnessing all across the last week, one good news that emerged towards the end of the week was that the market, after the market closing, that is that the GDP print for the first quarter came in at 7.8%, well above all the estimates that there were to the street, and it came in at a 5-quarter high as well. This is despite all the Trump tariff-related tensions, the geopolitical uncertainty that was grappling most of the investor sentiment as well. Now, of course, apart from this, what has happened over the weekend on the global front? Trump's global tariffs that have been the cause of concern for Indian investors at large and for the D Street too, they have been ruled illegal by a federal appeals court on Friday, and Trump has until mid-October to appeal to the Supreme Court before the ruling takes effect as well. So that's going to be clearly a big development that all of us are going to be looking at. Now, following this, we've seen the US equity market sold off on Friday. S&P 500 was down by 0.6%. Nasdaq was down by over 1% as well. What's also happened on the global footprint is that Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Chinese President Xi Jinping have met for nearly an hour in Tianjin in China in Prime Minister Narendra Modi's first ever visit to China in 7 years. And that has signaled a diplomatic thaw between both the countries, and both the leaders that have stressed that India and China are partners and not rivals, and that's the key message that is going to be importantly going to be a trigger that the markets will be reacting to. How have the Asian markets performed? Well, we've seen the Asian markets really start on a negative note, largely in trade today, as investors are reacting to one ruling by the US Federal Appeals Court on the tariffs, which has claimed that US President Donald Trump has his reciprocal tariffs have been illegal. And of course, we will also be looking at the US Court of Appeals for the Federal Circuit has ruled that Trump has overstepped his presidential authority by imposing broad levies on nearly every major trading partner under his April 2nd Liberation Day declaration. And therefore, we've seen Nikkei down by about 0.9% this morning, South Korea also falling by about 0.8%. Australia's ASX was down by about 0.1% in trade. In contrast, however, China's Shanghai Composite has managed to trade higher in trade, 0.2% up in trade. And GIFT Nifty is also given to understand that we could be headed for a positive start. But again, another key aspect will be the foreign and institutional investor sell-off that has been nearly to the tune of $5 billion for this quarter. And of course, this has only exacerbated even in the month of August. That series, FPIs have actually pulled out 34,993 odd crore rupees. That's close to $4 billion of Indian equity markets from the Indian equity markets in the month of August. So sharpest sell-off in 6 months is what we've seen, and that's weighed down by all these geopolitical uncertainties. We'll have to see what goes forward from here. Let's actually welcome our guest on board. Mr. Dharmesh Kant is joining in from Chola Investments to help us understand his market view and how do we decipher all of these newer moving parts across the globe. Warm welcome to you, and thank you so much for taking the time out, Dharmesh ji. Good morning. At the start of another week, we have so many moving parts to really look at. So let's start off with your first view as to how did you assess what's happened on a global footprint over the weekend. One, a meeting at Tianjin, the signals that are coming in from there. And two, our biggest talk point has been tariffs and what has occurred in US itself. What the US Federal Court has done against those tariffs. How would you look at that?
See, as far as the US Federal Court thing is concerned, that's not very significant. It's a pretty insignificant kind of an event which has happened there, because President will still have multiple ways to push through the tariff thing. So even if the judgment is against the imposition of tariff, there are several sections in US Constitution which can be used by the president, and he can have his way out. So, and that's the tariff thing is central to this presidency. So let's not forget that he will not leave anything unturned so that the tariff doesn't go through the way he desires it to roll out. So that is not significant to my mind. Secondly, the China event, again, sentimentally, it's positive. People will be looking forward to it. But I have my own doubts, because eventually what you are going to sell to China. So basically, you can be a job processor, job work being done certain part of that, but eventually there's a huge trade deficit of India with China, and we are importers of everything, from raw material to finished goods and things like that. So some part of that processing can happen in India and it can be sold in India. Eventually, the end product which is there where you are going to sell, so those markets are now being identified are, African countries and other parts of the Middle East. So these are new geographies which would be, people are focusing on, both companies and the government, and it will take its own sweet time to roll out. So net things does look, murkier on the, macro front. The only silver lining to this fact was the GDP numbers, which came quite better. Whichever way you look at, either you look at, real GDP kind of a growth or a nominal GDP, which was again 8.8%, better than the expectation of 8%. And going forward, it again would be depending on government spending, because this time the GDP numbers was primarily driven by government spending, which went up by 50%. One caveat was last year the base effect was low because elections were in the process, and this time that was not there. So you had this advantage. At the same time, monsoon was well spread till Q1. So coming into Q2, again, difficulties will arise because monsoons are taking a, earlier shape in certain parts of northern India, and the process is, getting more not evenly spread out this time around. So there are caveats. We are basically, Sakshi, just on the market take, we are very much neutral on the market as of now, because I think valuation wise, it's at the bottom. I mean, 300-400 points here and there can still happen, but not much to give in on the valuation front. And on the upside, unless clarity emerges on the business trajectory by different stakeholders, it will be a more of a range bound kind of a market.
Okay, more of a range-bound market. We're already given to see how the markets are trading in the pre-open trade. 122 points lower at 24,300 odd levels is where you see the Nifty at, half odd percent lower. Let's see whether this improves for the better. It's true there are many positive triggers there to support some sentiment. So let us wait and watch over the next 5 minutes as to how things really shape up in the pre-open trade. But let's also talk about the other key aspects that are more domestic in nature and that are ready to provide some further fuel to the spirits in the markets as well. One, the GDP data that's come in as a surprise at 7.8 odd percent. How do you see this data point at a time when the globe and a lot of global leaders have been looking at India, and some of them have been pointing at India being a dead economy, and then this data point comes in? How would you really explain to what's really happening with the economy, and does that provide any further sentiment upbeat to the markets?
See, Sakshi, I mean, this data, GDP data which came was totally domestic driven, be it services, manufacturing or infrastructure. And the good part is of the entire data setup was the huge investments which has been done by the government of India. So that was the prime driver of the market. Having said that, if you look at, the export growth, it was not great. It was only 5.9%, and net, I mean, export minus import, it was a minus 1.4%. It was a drawdown on the kind of, in fact, the GDP growth number which has come by. So the only key aspect to watch out for this data point is Q1 has been good, great, but the bulk of the heavy lifting was done by the government spending. And that is the only concern, because if you look at direct tax data, it is not showing a robust growth. This is in a single digit, where the expectation was a double digit kind of a direct tax growth. Same has been the case with indirect tax growth. So number wise, absolute number wise, it looks great, but as a percentage of GDP, it's not quite decent, and now it is slipping to 5-6% kind of a growth. So economy on the ground has not been doing, from the consumption point of view of private sector is still asking tasks, but government spending is doing the bulk lifting. Let's see the direct tax benefit now, the expectation of indirect tax benefit getting rolled out, and then the lower interest rate, how it plays out going forward. The only challenge which can come in between, though it's early to say, is the type of rainfall which we have seen of on the later part of the August month, and that is not very conducive to evenly economic growth. Government can be, attention can be drawn to that, and the expectation is that this week again there will be some heavy showers falling in the larger part of the India. So that one has to keep in mind while looking at the entire spectrum of things. I would be personally looking at the automobile and the other numbers, sales and the consumer durables and all, how it pans out in the month of October and September. So sooner the GST rollout, better it is for the economy. And if those numbers show some, inkling or green shoots of growth, then we are there for a good run upside. But as of now, it's more of a status quo. The type of growth which was expected is coming into play with government doing the work lifting.
Absolutely. Let me also just ask you on the other key aspect. We will come to the indirect taxes bit, in a moment from now as to the triggers that we'll be watching out for. The other key aspect was to look at Reliance Industries also, sir. The RIL AGM that came in, it's been a long wait, and finally the announcement on Jio IPO has actually come by as well. So help us understand what's your key thought here on Reliance Industries. The stock had still slipped in trade on Friday despite this announcement, even though most of the brokerage houses have actually come out with a buy rating yet again on Reliance. We have a JP Morgan report which has come in with an overweight rating here, a target price of 1695. HSBC report on RL which has a 1630 kind of a target as well. How are you looking at what kind of a value unlocking can this new IPO really bring in? What does it mean for the existing shareholders?
Yeah. So, I mean, the AGM was, I mean, they have got the outline right this time around. At least the timelines were given when things are expected to roll out. And that was earlier, that was a bit of a disappointment where, investors were looking forward to the value unlocking timeline. So that has been there. Looking at the current, market cap of Reliance Industries around 18 lakh 30,000 odd crores. If you do the SOTP kind of a valuation method, as for us, around 2 lakh 50,000 is O2C, oil to chemical kind of a business. 65,000 is oil and gas business, which we have given a valuation to. Geo is more, the digital platform is more or less fairly valued at say $100 billion. That comes to be around 8.5 lakh crores to 9 lakh crores. At a 15% discount to the Bharti Airtel kind of a multiples. The reason why we are giving 15% discount to Geo platform as compared to Bharti is the ARPUs are lower, one. And secondly, if you look at Reliance, ARPU is around 209, similar to Bharti's Africa business ARPU of 208. So both have the delta as far as ARPU is concerned on the African side, Bharti, and in the Indian business side, Reliance. At the same time, Bharti is having an upper hold on the Indian ARPU. So they will continue to have a premium out there. The only thing which is left in the basket which can play on the valuation side of Reliance is the retail business. So now looking at the retail business, how we are looking at retail businesses, four businesses merged into the one platform. If you look at DMart, if you look at Trent, if you look at Titan, and the other business of the groceries and all put together, all these four businesses, if you look at the combined sales of these four businesses, are around 1 lakh 50,000 odd crores with 14,000 crores of EBITDA. Reliance Retail itself does a business of around 3 lakh 30,000 crores on the sales side and EBITDA of around 25,000 odd crores. So this is where the real value unlocking will happen. These companies are trading at a PE multiple of anywhere between 90 to 110. And even if you take on the sales side, so six times of sales. As of now, at 18 lakh 50,000 or 30,000 odd crores of market cap, the retail business is commanding a valuation multiple of two times the sale, with almost similar kind of a run rate of the growth side of 12 or 13% as of DMart, though the management has guided for a 20% CAGR. So we are looking forward to that kind of a value unlocking for Reliance retail business, which we think should be 2.5 to 3 times, which will have a further unlocking on the valuation side. As far as price target are concerned, we are just holding our shots. We are not recommending any price target on Reliance Industries. The only recommendation is keep on buying it as an SIP method till the market stabilizes and give it one more year before coming out on the valuation multiples, because new energy is another business where valuation has not been assigned by any analyst because the business is to roll out. Just give you a broader outline, 100 gigawatt capacity they are talking about. That will translate to around 2 lakh crores of revenue, which again at 15% kind of a margin will translate to anywhere between 50,000 to 60,000 crores of your PAT on the EBITDA side. That valuation multiple again will play out. So there are two triggers where value unlocking will happen on a much larger scale, and that will have at least 1.5 to 2 years to play out. So right now, Reliance Industries is one stock which you should be just doing an SIP and keep on buying on every declines, and don't worry about a target price.
Okay, got that. Let me now ask you on the indirect taxes bit, but meanwhile, just let me also highlight for our viewers how the markets have settled in the pre-open. 24,432, so just a mild uptick of 5 odd points is what we are given to understand. Some of the sectors that could be back in focus is the broader markets that have so far been laggards. That could be in focus. You could look at IT, metals, autos could again be in focus, consumer durables as well. Although we'll have to see how the banks perform, they have been underperformers, and we'll also ask Dharmeshji to give his view over that. Now let's also look at some of the stocks that could be in focus. You could again look at auto names like Hero that could be in focus, Adani Enterprises, Eternal Trent. These are the names that are right now showing us some ticks on the higher side as far as the pre-open trade is concerned. And of course, we'll be looking at a lot of news flow related stocks as well. But we'll come back to it. Dharmeshji, let's try and understand from you when it comes to this current week. I think the biggest data point is that we are going to be looking at the GST Council meeting that occurs on 3rd and 4th. That will put the final stampings on all that has been under consideration by the centre and by the group of ministers there. And we could be looking at a two-slab structure now, a lot of lower rates for many sectors that we could be looking at. What kind of triggers do you, think this could provide to the markets, or do you think to some extent something has already been priced in?
Yeah, to a large extent, many things have been priced in, going by the price section which we have seen. But anything to do with mass consumption, one has to keep an eye out there. They are going to benefit because our sense is most of the rates which will come down for mass consumption to around 5% kind of a level, and that is where the entire action will set. So like Hero Motocorp has been for the entry level bike segment, even TVS Motor qualifies for that. Many of the auto ancillaries like Jamna Auto and all will fall under the same bracket. At the same time, many textile company may eventually benefit by a low rate, same with many, chemical companies making ingredients, APIs and other molecules for pharmaceutical companies. So these are the areas where things are likely to happen. At the same time, the caveat has been on the, affluent consumption kind of a basket. It even includes two-wheelers like super bikes, 350cc and plus can see GST rate moving to 40% kind of a bracket. So companies catering to those kind of a segment, maybe Bajaj Auto or Eicher Motors, can see some kind of a burnout there on the higher rates, including the car segment. So you have to play out a combination, and it has, cement companies can be one bigger beneficiary out there. Reason being, if the rates are definitely likely to come down for cement companies, the GST rates. At the same time, infra spending by the government we have seen is on the high accelerator. At the same time, with flood which we just spoke about, so a lot of damage has happened which needs to be repaired. So infra spending will happen even there to get this repair in place. So North India based cement companies, I mean the pan India, you can take Ultratech and all, can benefit largely. Ultratech and Ambuja Cements. These are the two companies which are having a good presence across the board. So there you can have a lot of action happening out. Apart from that, any small cap or mid cap kind of a segment which we are seeing, the prices have already moved actually a lot. So I don't think post the announcement things will drift. People will wait for the actual numbers to translate. The expectation is volumes is going to pick up. Whether it picks up or not on the backdrop of slowing economy has to be seen after the rate cut. So market will wait and watch. I mean, investors will wait and watch to see that. And the quick money traders and short-term investors may even be in for taking profits when the rate announcement comes. So be careful and mindful of that trading play as well.
Okay, our first number from the auto sales that are supposed to be coming in today have actually come in, and that's from Escorts Kubota. The total tractor sales are up by about 27% at 8,456 units. This is higher than the 6,652 units that were seen last year in the same month. And what we're also looking at is that there is a reaction that's also coming in the pre-open trade as far as the Nifty auto is concerned. About 0.1% higher, so we'll definitely look at this one. Right now, it seems like we will be looking at a higher start for the entire auto basket. We already have the final rates on the Nifty now. So let's shift focus to the market opening, 24,474. We are up by 50 odd points right at the opening tick. So that's on a positive note. Let's also pull up Nifty Bank. We'll also discuss about that. Remember, last 5 days have actually turned out to be pretty negative for the Nifty Bank. That's been a big laggard, but it starts off the new week on a positive note and a new month as well, 0.3% higher at 53,825 odd levels coming in for the Nifty Bank right now. 24,500 is back on the Nifty as well, viewers. So we'll look at that one. Let me also look at Reliance Industries. That's the first big name that we will be looking at right after absorbing the knee-jerk reaction on the announcements that were made on the AGM. Let's find out how is this fresh and new week really opening in trade for Reliance Industries, and of course for a lot of those banking names, auto names at large. These will also be in focus as well. So RL is coming in front of your screens, half odd percent higher, at least at this point in time. But let's look at the larger basket. The broader markets are also opening higher in trade right now. You can see a 0.3% of an uptick on the mid and the small caps at this point. IT sector is zooming ahead. It's the top moving sector right now. Look at the IT space. It's zoomed by over a percent. That's where all the momentum is. All the sectors barring say oil and gas is still hovering higher. Apart from IT and the broader markets, you can see autos that are also up by about half odd percent. PSU banks about half odd percent higher in trade. Consumer durables, metals, private banks, financial services, infra, pharma. These are all the sectors that are hovering higher in trade as of now. Top movers on the Nifty, you have Infosys that's up by 1.7%. Power Grid is higher in trade. You have a lot of power related names in focus. Torrent Power is about 3.5% higher in the F&O space. Bajaj Auto is driving up now 1.3% up. Trent is also hovering higher. Top laggards right now on the Nifty, RIL and Tata Consumer Products, SBI Life, Sun Pharma. These are the top drags at this point in time. Any sharp movers as far as the Nifty 500 basket is concerned that we can mark out for our viewers? We'll wait for some market move to happen over the next 2 or 3 minutes before we come back to it. But right now, IT is taking it away. Dharmeshji, how are you looking at the IT space right now? What do you think are the fresh triggers that can continue to support its buying from the lower levels?
Yes, actually, I mean, today the trading on the IT upside is more to do with the currency depreciation, which we have seen. So it's a trading play which is playing out. But in the IT basket, what we are looking at is IT companies which are more into services and not the product part. So services, what I mean is IT companies which are having either technology partners in the US to build some new product or some new module where they are writing the subroutine part and all. And it applies to all segment, be it engineering, manufacturing, healthcare, and the other verticals of the engineering research and development part. There, I think persistent technology is doing pretty well. Coforge has done pretty well. Signity has been doing well on the testing side. So these Densa Technology and Birlasoft and all. So these are the companies where you have to focus on. Valuations does look stretched even with the correction in play. But these are the sectors where things are happening. Even for AI, development on the larger counterparts in the US, these are the companies which are helping them to develop middle part of the AI product loop into the services part. So focus is there. Product-based companies like Infosys, TCS, SCL Tech, and Wipro, they are facing challenges because new orders are not flowing in. Because their products are not AI enabled, the type of products which is available in the market. So they are facing quite a challenge out there. So 2 or 3 days kind of trading bump up you can still see in the large cap IT companies based on the news flow surrounding them. But structurally, the mid cap IT companies which are more into services and product is not their main revenue earner are the areas where action is happening. They will remain expensive, but look at them. And maybe down the line, if one is a long-time investor, they can look at companies like KPIT Technology and Tata Elxsi and Tata Technologies, which are into automobile kind of technological development. So, though they are out of favor as of now, but this is a time to get an accumulation out there, keeping at least 2 years kind of a time frame window in mind, because eventually EV rollouts and new model rollouts are bound to happen once this entire tariff settlement has happened. It has happened for the world. India is the only thing where, and India and China is not, it has been settled. But I think with Europe and other rest part of the world getting settled, orders will keep now start flowing in for these companies as well.
Okay, fair point. Let me look at some stocks that are buzzing in the first trade in the markets today. Torrent Power, like I mentioned, it's up by 3.5%. There's an order win news that's really pulling up the stock higher. CG Power is up by 2%. Morgan Stanley has initiated a coverage here. You have Zydus Wellness that's up by 3.5%. Comfort Click acquisition impact can actually be seen on this one. For August sales, like I mentioned, Escorts Kubota is up by 2.5% after the tractor sales have jumped by 27% odd. That's also reacting positively. Bajaj Auto is also ticking higher by over a percent. You can actually see that impact also coming in on the auto sales numbers. Now let's also look at some of the other names that are higher in trade. You have Sterlite Technologies that's actually on a weaker note in trade, 5.6% lower. That's, I think, about the $96 million claim case in the US that is actually seeking to impact the stock momentum, at least at this point in time. But let's focus on the banking space, Dharmesh ji. Last 1 week of the sell off that we've seen on the Nifty, a large part of it has actually been caused by Nifty Bank's underperformance. All 5 days of a decline and about 2,000 points gone over the last many days as well. How are you looking at the Nifty Bank and its underperformance thus far?
I mean, there's a reason to it why the underperformance happened. First thing is this quarter itself, muted kind of advances growth is been expected. So I don't think business is going to pick up in a larger way. NIMS will still see a compression of 5-6 basis point because the entire pass on was has not happened last time. The only good news is, I mean, for PSU sector banks. July onwards, the new loans they are even, I mean, lending at a higher rates, around 17, 18 basis point higher than what the run rate was before July month. But the old, loans are still getting repriced by 5-6 basis point low. Private sector banks are still, lowering the rates. They have not gone up to hike the rates. So this will see a compression in the NIMS. At the same time, I mean, business growth won't be there to that extent. Double digit kind of growth is still a suspect on the advances. And the third factor, which is likely to play out negatively for the banks, was Q1. Other income part was very high, the treasury income part, because of the bond yields getting, lower. Now the bond yields have moved out around 30-35 basis point. The bond yields are higher in this quarter. So that will have a reverse effect of M2M losses on the capital gains side. So that when they do it, so eventually when the entire number come out, so business and operating part would be flattish kind of a number with negative numbers coming from the bond yield where the reversal will play out for higher bond yields. So, that is where I think the market is weighing in that, and that's the reason why we have seen a muted kind of performance for the entire banking space. But having said that, going forward, I think all of this is in the price as of now. One should be looking at acclimating banks here on, and public sector banks looks a better bet on the valuation multiples than private players going forward.
Okay, fair point. Let me just get back to the market to see what else is ticking higher. We've already marked out that IT space is clearly in focus. Viewers, 1.5% higher. You can see Infi, Tech Mahindra, both among the top movers on the Nifty right now. TCS is also moving up. HCL Tech, these are the other names that are also hovering higher. Consumer durables is now picking up some pace. You can actually see an almost a percent uptick coming in. Even the broader markets, the mid and the small caps are also hovering higher in trade right now. PSU banks already marked out by Dharmesh ji. Metals is also shining bright, at least at this point. I think barring FMCG, rest all of the sectors are now actually in a positive zone, at least for now. Dharmesh ji, help us understand on the broader markets, mid and small caps. Again, this has been a space that has been underperforming the benchmarks in the recovery zone. How are you looking at this space, and what's the right way to approach it?
I think the right way is to go by stock specific. So
Okay.
wherever the clarity is there of the company's growth trajectory, that should be the right way because the numbers were not that great in the middle small cap space. It was scattered all over the place. But there anything to do with power ancillary manufacturing side or infra side, auto ancillary, select companies are getting orders and doing pretty well. So you have to keep an eye out there and where things are working fine, buy there. Don't buy it as a basket or just because a peer or a competitor is doing well. This company is also has not moved. it can move because people look at it that way. It's not that type of a market. Consumption we have seen has taken a down beating. So unless that structurally the entire good story evolves, one has to be stock specific in this space. The sectors which look good is again, I mean, capital goods side with power related component makers. So ancillary space out there, infra, same thing, and auto ancillary. So these are the baskets which we are looking at in those respective spaces.
Okay, fair point. 100 points higher now. We're at 9:25, 10 minutes after the markets have opened, 24,525. So we are inching up higher in trade. Let's also pull up some of the other stocks that are in focus in trade today. Let's look at Indigo, for instance. Why am I looking at it? There are two pronged of news flows that have come in. One, the jet fuel prices have been rationalized a little lower. So that could be in focus for the aviation sector. But Investec has actually come out with a sell rating on Indigo with a target price of 4,050. They believe that globally airlines typically do not have concentrated promoter holdings, making Indigo an exception. And Investec believes that Mr. Bhatia still owns about 36%, exceptionally high, and they believe this is for a structurally volatile airline business for that matter. So far, they believe that the market has absorbed all the heavy supply smoothly, first supported by the strong FY24 earnings and later by momentum-driven flows. Valuations are pricing in the aggressive expansion through FY30 now, and against the backdrop of stretched valuations, weakening earnings momentum, they believe additional supply could actually weigh in on the stock price. One of the first or rarest sell ratings that have actually come in on Indigo, Dharmeshji, how would you look at this one?
I mean, the rationale is quite amusing. I mean, promoter holding, because of that, if they are giving a sell rating, that I don't buy. It has to be a business kind of model which is more relevant for any sell or buy rating to come through. And there, I think Indigo stands on a very solid footing. They have been doing pretty well, and the tailwinds are flowing in. The input prices of oil is already benign, and it's not likely to go up in near future as well with geopolitical issues getting subsided, and the demand is on the downside overall. So we have seen that the cracks of ATF has also fallen quite a bit. So I think to our mind, it's a great buying opportunity, though it may not move every day up. But if you are long-term investors, but we are going in with a target price around 10,000 Indigo for 2 years kind of a perspective. So we are quite bullish on this company.
Okay, got that. Last 3 minutes before we let you go, Dharmeshji. So help us understand, for a fresh investment at this juncture, what are you advising investors? Of course, we are in the thick of the festive season now, and we'll be in for Navratris in about 2 weeks from now as well. And that's when the benefits of GST rate cuts will also start to pour in. How would you look at the investment ideas that one can really bet big on for the rest of the calendar year?
So at current juncture, keeping everything in mind, the tariff thing and all the slowdown in the economy and all. So we have very concentrated focus, and but that's one is on the renewable energy kind of a segment, right from renewable energy power producer to component maker and the down the line the chain. So that is one area where we are focusing. The two stocks which we have all have given a buy rating is NTPC Green and Wari Energy. So that we are continuing on that. Other than that, automobile space. So Hero Motocorp, we have been writing a buy from 37, 3800 kind of a levels. So that continues. Auto ancillary continues. Infra continues. And banking space. So couple of public sector banks like Bank of India or Bank of Baroda looks pretty attractive. On private sector banks, though Axis Bank came out with a very bad set of numbers Q1. But we think it's the bottom is around the corners, and now it's time to look up on the upside. So Axis Bank is from the private sector bank. So these are the pockets which we are concentrating as of now, and we will see. I mean, 2 months down the line, if other sectors or companies are to be added, then we'll initiate buy out there.
Okay, fair point. Got that. Dharmeshji, then thank you so much for being with us
Thank
on
you
the
so much,
program
Sakshi.
and helping all our viewers really understand all the views that you've shared across the board, global, domestic impact, the triggers that are to be looked at, and of course the strategies that are to be followed from here on. Always a pleasure to have you. So thank you so much for
Thank you so
taking the
much.
time out. 24,522 viewers. That's where the markets are ticking, at least at this point in time. We have an uptick across the board. You can see even the India VIX that's trending lower in trade, and that's giving a lot of comfort as well to the markets at this point in time. So IT is clearly the winning spree, on a winning spree, at least at this point in time. It's the top moving sector with over 1.5% gains coming in. Consumer durables follows. You also have a lot of uptick that's coming in on the metals, on the auto pack for that instance. And we also have another guest now joining in. Mr. Raghavendra Singh, market expert, is also joining in on the program. Raghavendra, warm welcome. Good morning to you. We start off another fresh week on a lot of triggers. Over the weekend, we have a lot of global cues that we are reacting to, and following this opening today, we will be looking at a lot of domestic cues from GST Council meeting as well. So how are you looking at all of this? How is this going to shape up this week's trade for the market?
Sakshi, very good morning. As far as Nifty is concerned, Sakshi, we have seen a very strong rebound from 24,400, 24,300 level, which is a very strong support. And I think there is a small gap between 24,100 to 24,300. In the month of May, I think it was there. So I think this is a time where we can definitely look for the upper level. 24,800 is a very strong resistance. Unless and until we don't cross that level, I think there will be again a selling pressure on the higher side. So we have to wait and watch that GST Council and the global improvement what is going on. एक बार ये चीजें हो जाएगी फिर मुझे लगता है कि उसके बाद ही बाजार में एंट्री करना चाहिए, बिकॉज अभी बहुत बड़ा ऐसा कुछ सरप्राइज नहीं आया ग्लोबल मार्केट में. डेफिनेटली FIIs and DIIs both are fighting with each other. FIIs are the net seller. Overall 92% position is on the sell side. So वो एक थोड़ा सा मुझे लग रहा है कि जब FI इतना सेलिंग में बैठे हुए हैं तो इमीडिएटली रिवर्स लेना मुश्किल है. बट आई थिंक वो भी एक ये कंसर्न हो सकता है कि अगर बेचने के लिए बहुत ज्यादा पोजीशन नहीं है तो शॉर्ट कवरिंग के भी चांसेस हैं. सो ओवरऑल मुझे लगता है कि जब तक 24,800 का लेवल क्रॉस नहीं करता बाजार में कोई बुल रन नहीं है, और अगर नीचे का लेवल 24,000 लेवल ब्रेक कर देगा तो फिर और बड़ा लेवल जा सकता है. सो वी हैव टू वेट एंड वॉच फॉर अनदर वीक. एक हफ्ते देखते हैं क्या होता है. एंड अगेन इस हफ्ते मुझे लगता है थोड़ा सा अपसाइड आएगा, बिकॉज पिछले हफ्ते बहुत ज्यादा सेलिंग था. So we can expect some rebound on the higher side, but again एक थोड़ा सा selling pressure भी रहने वाला ऊपर.
Okay, got that. I hope this is given an overview to the markets now. राघवेंद्र जी, आज के मोमेंटम में आप कौन से सेक्टर्स के ऊपर फोकस कर रहे हैं? आज IT सेक्टर में काफ़ी बड़ी तेज़ी के साथ शुरुआत हुई है. क्या ये सेक्टर में आज दिन भर तेज़ी रहेगी? कंसंट्रेशन यहाँ रखिए.
देखिए IT सेक्टर भी है, और उसके साथ साथ आप देखिए ऑटो एंसिलरीज, मेटल, BSC के शेयर्स ले लीजिए आप, तो ऑलमोस्ट सब में है, बिकॉज सारे ओवरसोल्ड जोन में थे. RSI 30 के आसपास था ओवरऑल इंडेक्स का. सो स्टॉक्स भी उसी के आसपास थे. तो ये एक मुझे लगता है छोटा सा शॉर्ट कवरिंग है, और ये कंटिन्यू हो सकता है सेकेंड हाफ में भी. सो मेरे हिसाब से बाइंग जो है वो IT स्टॉक्स along with ऑटो एंसिलरीज, और जो भी स्टॉक्स बहुत नीचे हैं. बैंकिंग में भी अगर आप देखेंगे तो SBI, उसके बाद ICICI बैंक, HDFC बैंक सब फ्लैटिश हैं. थोड़ा सा रिवर्सल ले सकता है. रिलायंस एक थोड़ा सा मुझे कंसर्न लग रहा है, क्योंकि रिलायंस मुझे लगता है थोड़ा सा अभी वेट एंड वॉच की पोजीशन है. अभी भी मुझे लग रहा है कि रिलायंस में अभी चांसेस है नीचे जाने के, बट अपार्ट फ्रॉम दैट IT इज लुकिंग गुड सर.
होता है. चलिए ये बताइए राघवेंद्र जी की छोटे मझौले सेक्टर्स में से जहां पर लगातार कई दिनों से एक वीकनेस नजर आ रही थी, आज थोड़ा सा रिकवरी है. क्या यहां पर कुछ बाइंग बन रही है मिड और स्मॉल कैप्स में?
बिल्कुल बन रही है. मुझे लगता है आप देखिए मिड कैप और स्मॉल कैप में, मिड कैप IT स्टॉक देख लीजिए आप. जेंसार वो एक काफी अच्छा दिख रहा है. स्विगी, जो जोमेटो, ये अच्छे स्टॉक्स मुझे दिखाई दे रहे हैं. इसके अलावा जो है अगर आप देखें पॉलिसी बाजार, वो एक अच्छा दिखाई दे रहा है, जहां पे कि अच्छा ब्रेकआउट हुआ है. इसके अलावा मुझे लगता है कि इक्लर्क्स सर्विसेज वो भी मुझे बहुत अच्छा दिखाई दे रहा है. चार्ट पे अच्छा ब्रेकआउट है. तो ये सारे स्टॉक्स हैं, मुझे लग रहा है कि यहाँ से एक रिवर्सल लेना चाहिए. तो इन सारे मझौले छोटे स्टॉक्स में एक अच्छी खासी आ रही है बाइंग, और ये मोमेंटम मुझे लगता है साक्षी आने वाले समय में भी कंटिन्यू हो सकता है.
Absolutely. Right now, viewers, we are going to be showing you what Prime Minister Narendra Modi is speaking at the SCO summit and what he has to say. Let's quickly toss to the speech right now.
प्रश्न उठना स्वाभाविक है। क्या कुछ देशों द्वारा आतंकवाद का खुलेआम समर्थन हमें स्वीकार्य हो सकता है? एक्सेलेंसी, हमें स्पष्ट रूप से और एक स्वर में कहना होगा कि आतंकवाद पर कोई भी डबल स्टैंडर्ड स्वीकार्य नहीं होंगे। हमें मिलकर आतंकवाद का हर रंग में, हर रूप में विरोध करना होगा। ये मानवता के प्रति हमारा दायित्व है। एक्सेलेंसी, अब मैं दूसरे स्तंभ सी यानी कनेक्टिविटी पर अपने विचार रखना चाहूंगा। भारत का हमेशा से मत रहा है कि मजबूत कनेक्टिविटी से केवल व्यापार ही नहीं बल्कि विश्वास और विकास के द्वार भी खुलते हैं। इसी सोच के साथ हम चाबहार पोर्ट और इंटरनेशनल नॉर्थ साउथ ट्रांसपोर्ट कॉरिडोर जैसे इनिशिएटिव पर काम कर रहे हैं। इनसे हम अफगानिस्तान और मध्य एशिया के साथ संपर्क बढ़ा सकते हैं। हमारा मानना है कि कनेक्टिविटी के हर प्रयास में संप्रभुता और क्षेत्रीय अखंडता का सम्मान होना चाहिए। यही एससीओ चार्टर के मूल सिद्धांतों में भी विदित है। कनेक्टिविटी दैट बाईपासेस sovereignty, losing trust and limit. एक्सेलेंसी, तीसरा स्तंभ है ओ यानी अपॉर्चुनिटी। अपॉर्चुनिटी फॉर कोऑपरेशन एंड रिफॉर्म। 2023 में भारत की अध्यक्षता के दौरान नई ऊर्जा और विचारों का संचार हुआ है। स्टार्टअप्स और इनोवेशन, ट्रेडिशनल मेडिसिन, यूथ एम्पावरमेंट, डिजिटल इंक्लूजन और शेयर बुद्धिस्ट हेरिटेज जैसे नए विषयों को अपने सहयोग में जोड़ा। हमारा प्रयास था कि एससीओ को सरकारों के परे भी ले जाए। सामान्य मानवी, यंग साइंटिस्ट, स्कॉलर्स और स्टार्टअप को भी आपस में जोड़े। हमारे पीपल टू पीपल टाइम।
All right, Prime Minister Narendra Modi addressing the plenary session in China and Tianjin at the SCO summit. Remember, viewers, Prime Minister at the SCO summit has raised the issue of terrorism, and Prime Minister has said that he expects zero tolerance towards terror. He's also given a big message to Pakistan at the SCO summit. He's talked about how the Pahalgam attack was an attack on humanity. Terrorism is a threat to peace. He's also said one should not have double standards on terrorism. Those are the big messages that are coming in from Prime Minister Narendra Modi as he raises the issue of terror at the SCO meet in Tianjin. So those are some of the biggest messages that are coming in from his address at the summit. Of course, we'll continue to get you all the developments from what's happening on the global stage as newer relationships are being formed and those that are prior are being strengthened as well. Let's go back to our conversation with Raghavendra ji to see what else is taking higher in the markets. Raghavendra ji, बाजार में और कहां पर अभी खरीदारी बन सकती है, कहां पर अभी आपको लग रहा है कि मौके अब देखने को मिल सकते हैं, खास तौर पर now that a lot of things are improving on the global front as well. We clearly see what's happening on the global front with Prime Minister Narendra Modi having met President Xi Jinping. We're seeing that he's going to be meeting Putin. So a lot of global stage talks are becoming front topics at this point in time. How are you looking at that relating to what markets can expect from now?
साक्षी, देखिए जिस हिसाब से ग्लोबल टेंशन इज आउट हो रही है ड्यू टू मोदी जी, और मुझे लग रहा है कि जिस हिसाब से मीटिंग है, मतलब मुझे ऐसा लग रहा है कि यूएस को साइड हम जो है साइडलाइन कर रहे हैं और ये जो तीनों स्ट्रांग इकोनॉमी है, चाहे वो इंडिया हो, चाइना हो, रशिया हो, और हो सकता है ब्रिक्स नेशन जो है मिल करके एक आने वाले समय में कि अगर ऐसी कोई सिचुएशन आती है, सो वर्स्ट केस में दे कैन मेक देयर ओन करेंसी। अगर ये हो गया तो डी डॉलराइजेशन का सबसे बड़ा चांस होगा, और मुझे लगता है उसका इफेक्ट जो है इंडियन मार्केट पे सबसे ज्यादा होने वाला है। आप देखिए, मोदी जी गए थे जापान में, वहां भी जाके उन्होंने इंडिया में मैन्युफैक्चरिंग करने के लिए बढ़ावा दिया कि आप इंडिया में जो है सामान बनाइए और इंडिया से उससे पूरे दुनिया को आप जो है एक्सपोर्ट कीजिए, सप्लाई कीजिए, क्योंकि हमारे यहाँ जो लेबर कॉस्ट है, हमारे यहाँ जो मैन्युफैक्चरिंग कॉस्ट है, वो बहुत कम है। ये एक मैसेज दे रहे हैं पूरी दुनिया को कि हमारे पास आकर के आप जो है मैन्युफैक्चरिंग करो, और हमने बाजार ओपन कर रखा है हर किसी के लिए। अगर यूएस भी आएगा तो उसका भी मोस्ट वेलकम है, लेकिन वो हमारी शर्तों पे होना चाहिए। ये क्लियर मैसेज आ रहा है कि हमारे यहाँ जो गवर्नमेंट है बहुत स्ट्रांग है, कॉर्पोरेट गवर्नेंस बहुत स्ट्रांग है, कंपनियों के लिए बाजार ओपन है। तो मुझे लगता है इसका असर हमारे यहाँ स्टॉक मार्केट में भी डेफिनेटली होने वाला है, और आने वाले समय में आप देखिएगा साक्षी, अगले हो सकता है 1 से 2 साल में हम दुनिया को पीछे छोड़ते हुए सबसे अच्छी इकोनॉमी बन के बाहर आएंगे।
बिल्कुल। राघवेंद्र जी, चलिए कुछ और सेक्टर्स के ऊपर भी फोकस करते हैं, कुछ स्टॉक्स के ऊपर भी फोकस करते हैं। पहले आप बताइए कि बैंकिंग क्षेत्र से अब आपको क्या नज़र में आ रहा है, क्योंकि बैंकिंग जो अब तक एक पीक परफॉर्मिंग सेक्टर रहा है, पिछले कुछ हफ्तों में यहाँ पर मोमेंटम फिसलता हुआ नज़र आया है, यहाँ पर थोड़ा सा एक वीकनेस नज़र आई है पिछले 1 से 2 हफ्तों में। अब बैंकिंग स्पेस में कहाँ पर फोकस कर रहे हैं?
ताकि देखिए, मुझे लगता है बैंकिंग का बॉटम बन चुका है, बहुत ज्यादा मुझे डाउन साइड दिख नहीं रहा है। मेरे हिसाब से 500-700 पॉइंट बैंक निफ्टी और नीचे अगर आ भी गया तो मुझे लग रहा है कि वो एक अपॉर्चुनिटी होगी जहां पे हम बाई कर सकते हैं। क्लियर कट मुझे लग रहा है यहाँ से हम 56,000 की ओर जा रहे हैं। मुझे लग रहा है बैंक निफ्टी में हो सकता है सेकेंड वीक ऑफ द सितंबर मंथ, क्योंकि अभी मुझे लग रहा है देखिए फेस्टिव सीजन स्टार्ट होगा, रेट ऑफ इंटरेस्ट का भी असर होगा ग्लोबल मार्केट में भी। मुझे लगता है कि इस बार फेड शायद सितंबर में एक बार जो है रेट ऑफ इंटरेस्ट कम करे। तो मुझे ऐसा लग रहा है साक्षी कि हम कहीं ना कहीं बॉटम आउट हो रहे हैं, और आने वाले समय में मुझे लगता है बैंक निफ्टी आपको 56,400 का लेवल दिखाई देगी।
Okay, fair point. Let's also focus on some of the other stocks then. A lot of them have come in on the brokerage houses radar. From the renewable energy basket, I wanted to look at Suzlon again today. राघवेंद्र जी, मोतीलाल ओसवाल ने आज एक रिपोर्ट निकाली है जिसमें उन्होंने बाय रेटिंग दी और फिर से एक बार 80 का लेवल दिया है सूजलॉन पे मैनेजमेंट मीट के टेक अवेज के बाद। आज कुछ 1.5% ऊपर है ये स्टॉक। उनका मानना है कि जो कंपनी कह रही है कि ट्रांजिशन फ्रॉम turnaround to a growth story is going to be their clear focus. The CEO has reaffirmed long-term commitment, and also recent orders could be the beginning of full-scale indigenization of the company as well. Localization by foreign OEMs also beset unique challenges going forward from here. And EPC share is going to be rising to 50% of the order book by FY28. So some of these key aspects is what they're looking at. How are you looking at Suzlon?
So the long is looking good, Sakshi. I think stock is hovering around 60 level. मुझे लग रहा है कि ये एक लेवल ऐसा है जहां से डेफिनेटली वी कैन इंटर इनटू दिस स्टॉक विद द स्टॉप लॉस ऑफ 55, एंड आई एम एक्सपेक्टिंग टारगेट 65-66 rupees on the card within a month.
Okay, got that. Anything else from the Nifty 500 basket that takes your attention today, Raghavendra ji, that one could be looking at? There are several stocks that are actually hovering higher. Look at recently listed names. Unicommerce eSolutions 5-6% up in trade. Yatra Online has been ticking higher for some time now. Ola Electric is also now at 58 odd levels. Smart momentum here from last couple of sessions, 7.5% higher. That's also moving up in trade. So several of these stocks, what is taking your attention in Nifty 500?
Sakshi, I think NCC is looking good. NCC has given a strong breakout above 211, and I think if stocks sustain and maintain above 210, then we can definitely expect 225 to 28 level on the card. अपार्ट फ्रॉम दैट, जैसे कि आपने अभी बात किया IIFL वगैरह की, एक ये भी स्टॉक अच्छा लग रहा है मुझे लगता है 430 के ऊपर स्टॉक में ब्रेकआउट दिया है, और IIFL मुझे लग रहा है कि 455-460 का भाव दिखाना चाहिए। 425 रुपए का स्टॉप लॉस लगा सकते हैं। उनो मिंडा, इट इज ऑल्सो वेरी गुड, द स्टॉक हैज गिवन अ वेरी गुड ब्रेकआउट, और ये एक बार उनो मिंडा मुझे लगता है 1280-1300 के ऊपर सस्टेन हो रहा है। सो 1280 के स्टॉप लॉस से स्टॉक को बाई कर सकते हैं फॉर द टारगेट ऑफ 1370-1390।
ओके, फेयर पॉइंट। राघवेंद्र जी, बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया बने रहने के लिए इस खास शो पर। थैंक यू सो मच फॉर sharing all your views on specific stock
Thank
ideas
you so much.
right this Monday morning, and of course we'll be speaking to you during the course of the week as well. Let's now shift focus, viewers, on the macro data points and how that's really lifting the sentiments on the street as well. Let's welcome another top guest. Aditi Nair joins in, chief economist at ICRA, is now joining in. Hi Aditi, warm welcome, good morning to you. You know, we were discussing the last time around the expectation on Q1 GDP. You said you expect a 6.7% GDP. It came in at a bang 7.8%. That was not in anybody's radar, I guess. What surprised you there? And after this data point, what's going to be a reaction on the numbers that you have penciled in for yourself?
Thank you. Certainly, we got a very sharp upside surprise in this quarter, and I think the couple of subsectors where the initial estimate is quite different from our forecast are things like manufacturing and some of the services subsectors. At the same time, on the sectoral side, agriculture and mining have actually underperformed our expectations slightly. When we look at the expenditure side aggregates, I think what really stood out as an upside surprise is private final consumption expenditure. We've now got several quarters of average private final consumption expenditure growth being very strong, even though the commentary from a lot of the consumption related companies continues to be at best slightly hopeful. So I think it's not really gelling very well with some of what we're hearing on the ground. Barring that, we knew this was a quarter where government capex had grown very strongly on a low growth. That's come through in the data. We knew it was also a quarter where there had been some amount of upfronting of non-oil exports. That's not come through very clearly in the data, but that was expected to be a reason that the GDP growth would have been high in Q1 and tapered off after that. So I'm going to put it this way. We got a good upside surprise in Q1, but I think the issues from Q2 onwards remain the same.
Okay.
We've got shock, unless, of course, there is an early resolution to that. We would expect that both exports would be tepid at best with the tariff shock, and the private capex is going to kind of recalibrate in the current global environment, whether they should go ahead with private capex, especially in export-oriented sectors. And a couple of other things. After the high growth in government capex in Q1, we've actually got contractions coming through both for Government of India and for the states in the month of July, because
Okay.
now the base effect is turning around. We know that capex was back-ended in FY25. It's now being front-ended in FY26. And it's quite likely that the headroom for growth is going to be much lower in the rest of the year. Particularly for Government of India, we can tell that the headroom for growth is actually down to a contraction of 2% from August to March in terms of the budget estimate and the amount that's already been used up. So what's left over for the rest of the year. So that's not going to provide a support to growth going ahead. That's actually going to be lower than last year. And with GST, the fear is that in the second half of this quarter, people may actually defer some large ticket discretionary purchases until the tax cuts actually take effect. And then, of course, once the GST rationalization comes through, we expect it to be a positive. So some factors that are likely to be negative for the rest of the year or till there is a resolution, some which are likely to be temporarily negative. I'm quite confident that this is going to be by far the best growth print for this fiscal year, unless something changes very drastically on the tariff front. And we have maintained our GDP growth forecast for the full year at 6%, which still requires the Indian economy to grow at 5.5% in the last 3 quarters. And let's not compare it with the performance in Q1. Let's look at the fact that we have a 50% tariff shock at present. So 5.5% in our view is still going to be a tall ask.
Okay, so probably some more time to wait to find out whether that number can see some change. What about the global perspective onto India with this number that's come in? Do you think Indian economy has perhaps shown some resilience to any impact on the tariff, and are we at a better stage to deal with such tariffs or not yet?
Look, we've known for a long time that India is one of the fastest growing, if not the fastest growing economy in the world quarter after quarter, right? Nobody is taking that away. But the fact is that whatever our domestic resilience is, and we are looking at a situation where we've got tax cuts, we've got potential GST cuts, we've got 100 basis points of rate cuts. We had a very promising monsoon, although now I think we've got a little too much of a good thing. And, I'm hoping that we're going to have a relatively normal rainfall in the 4 weeks ahead, and not have sort of a washout of this great kharif sowing that we've seen so far. So we've got a lot of domestic resilience, there's no doubt about that. But we still have to adjust to the tariff shock if indeed it continues in the format that is known today. And that will have an impact on labor intensive, export oriented sectors. And even if there are no job losses, still the
Okay.
sentiment for people who are employed by those sectors is going to take a little bit of a beating. And I think this is something that the economy does need to adjust to going ahead. I still think India will be the fastest growing economy in FY26. I'm not taking away from that. But it is a different set of factors that are going to drive the headline growth in the next 3 quarters as compared to what we saw in Q1.
Absolutely. Now, Aditi, help us understand, one of the key domestic push that you also mentioned that we were all looking at providing some support against these tariffs is the GST rate cuts. But with this number coming in, do you think the government will think that, we do not need to provide as much a support that was really needed to boost the domestic economy now?
No, I don't think so. I think we still need to counter the tariff issues with more of domestic demand. So I don't think that this is going to have any impact on the GST related thinking. However, I believe that as far as convincing the states is concerned, what kind of final tax rates, what is going to happen to the sin items on which the cess was being imposed right now, and whether there is any compensation package. I think these things are going to be important to really be able to gauge how quickly we have a resolution in the GST Council on rationalizing the GST rate. So a little bit of work probably ahead on that, but I don't think that there would be any rethink on the need for the GST rationalization.
Okay. Then also tell us, what do we expect now from the RBI to really do after this kind of a data point has actually come in? Is there any hope that's still left for any rate cuts, or should we just do away with that hope now?
Look, we already thought that when we didn't get a rate cut in August, that probably meant that the rate cut window was closed and we were unlikely to get any rate cuts in October or in December. And if we did get rate cuts, it would come because of a growth shock. Now, we've not got a growth shock, we've got a growth,
Surprise.
celebration, surprise. So at least October, I think, is very firmly ruled out. After that, we will get the Q2 GDP growth print in November. At the end of November, very close to the December policy date. But as of now, I think our base case is that the extended pause has sort of started. And if anything, it may be better to go in with a more targeted sort of package for exporters, either through a fiscal kind of package or some other thing which is designed for them, rather than going with an overall rate cut, which is more of an economy-wide macro tool. It may be better to go in with something more specific if indeed we do not have the tariff situation becoming less bleak in the next few weeks.
All right. Fantastic, Aditi. Thank you so much for sparing your time for us and giving us all that insight. And of course, we'll be speaking to you in a very short while again, to really discuss what's really happening on the global footprint. We are seeing a lot of statements coming in from Tianjin as well. And that's going to be an important, update for the economy, as well as to how the relationships are going to change globally, how the new world order is, and what that means for the overall economy. So thank you so much for taking the time out. We'll get you back soon. Thank you so much. All right, viewers, we'll start wrapping up the morning trading edition now. 125 points higher in trade, 24,550. We're at the day's high point, at least for now. When we look at the key sectors that are supporting the sentiments, clearly the IT pack heads even higher, 1.5% up. Mid and small caps are also driving the show clearly. Mid caps are up by 1.4%. So are the small caps. Metals are shining bright with a percent gain. Consumer durables up by 1% as well. PSU banks nearly 1% higher. Private banks and financial services are also 0.5% up in trade. So barring just slight loss in FMCG, that's just flat with a negative bias. You have all the sectors that are pulled up. Look at a Bajaj Finance, it's topping the chart now, 1.5 to 2% higher. Infi Tech Mahindra, we've already marked out. Adani Enterprises is another one that's ticking higher. Look at even the capital markets related stocks. BSE, which was so far reeling under some pressure over the last couple of weeks, has also ticked higher by 4% on the F&O pack. Look at Hindustan Zinc from the metals pack. That's also ticking higher in trade, 4% higher on the back of the silver move that we've been seeing. NCC, another one from the construction basket, that's up by nearly 4%. What's on the downside, however? You see 361 WAM, that's declining. Prestige Estates, ICICI Lombard, Maruti Suzuki, PB Fintech, Federal Bank, Maruti Suzuki, all of them are still dragging in trade. Let me also highlight for you what's happening on the Nifty 500 baskets then. Yatra Online, we marked out 6% higher in trade today. You're also looking at some petchem names like Manali Petrochemicals, that's higher. RPP Infra Projects is higher in trade. Ola Electric is definitely ticking higher by 7% odd. Look at an Astron Paper, that's higher. Look at British Tandy Communications from the metal, from the movie space, exhibition space, that's higher. Auto ancillaries like Bharat Seats up by 10%. Those are some names that are also ticking higher in trade. So that's where the attention is going towards right now. So we've started off on a positive note this week and this new month. Let's see how this really pans out in trade. Again, a lot of insights that are coming in from the global stage at the SCO summit is going to be giving us some more ideas as to how the market's really taking in as to what's transpiring on the global stage as well. So stay tuned with us on Business Today Television as we continue to track for you all the market moves that you must know. And of course, we will also help you understand and decode your own stock queries at 12 noon on Daily Call. Stay tuned for that too.